There are some things that a lot of people are surprised that can actually get them kicked off the ship, and in some cases get you banned for life. In this video, we're going to be going over all of those so that you could be prepared and have a great time without getting yourself in trouble. So without further ado, let's get right into this. The first thing is tampering with the safety equipment. I know that this probably sounds so obvious, but it's important for you to understand that the safety equipment is there to protect all of the passengers on the cruise. So if you are going around messing around with the life jackets because you want to have fun, those can get you in trouble because they are there for emergencies and to make sure that you are protected at all cases. So although you may have an intrinsic thought to mess around with the safety equipment for whatever reason it might be, stay away from that because that will get you in a lot of trouble, and a lot of times there isn't no second chances when it comes to this. Number 2 is unauthorized drone usage. Operating a drone without the crew's explicit permission can get you in a lot of trouble. Drones prone a lot of safety hazards when you are using it. They have a lot of propellers. Those propellers can actually do some damage to different people if they happen to hit them on accident. If you're like me, a content creator, I would love to get that shot of the ship or whatever vacationing spot that we're at, but at the end of the day, most cruises are going to ban it because it is such a liability. So although it would be awesome to get that shot, you can't unfortunately use those. Number 3 is excessive noise complaint. Depending upon which type of cruise you go on, you are basically signing yourself up for either a more relaxing and adult experience, or you can get to more of a fun and crazier cruise depending upon which cruise line you go on. We all pretty much, I think, know that there are different types of cruises that are a little bit more rowdy than others, and that is kind of to be expected when you go on a cruise. However, if you are excessively getting noise complaints from other cruisers, especially around times when it should be quiet time because people are trying to sleep, this can put you in a threat of potentially being kicked off of the cruise. Number 4 is feeding the wildlife. When you're on a cruise, there is so many different wildlife that you may encounter. Whether it's in the sea or there's different birds that you are going to see, you are going to see it all. It could be so tempting to want to feed these wild animals, but it's important to not do this for so many different reasons. One, it can pose a safety hazard for other passengers because, for instance, if you're trying to feed different birds, they usually are not flying alone. They're usually flying in packs, and they could ultimately just become aggressive and want to be fed because they see that there's food. Another big thing about this is that there are certain laws that are put into place to protect these animals. We can eat certain things and be fine, but there are sometimes things that we can feed animals that we think is a good thing for them but are actually super toxic and can hurt them. Number 5 is unauthorized business activities. This is something that was kind of a little bit of a shocker to me, but I can understand that this is a business as well, and a lot of cruise lines have their own things going. They have their own rights and all these different things that are going on, and if you are going in and trying to sell other people into what you're trying to offer, not only your business could potentially conflict with the cruise line's business, but it also could upset a lot of different passengers and cause them to have a horrible experience and not want to ever go on the cruise. So if you are trying to do that without any explicit permission from the cruise line, this again can get you kicked off of the cruise line, but also could get you banned for life. Number 6 is repeated rules violation. What it's important to point out here is that a lot of cruise lines have a more no tolerance policy towards different things that normally on land wouldn't be that serious. The reason why is because we have to think that we as passengers on a cruise outnumber the crew members significantly. So they have to maintain order on all levels and make sure that everyone is safe as possible because we're on a massive ship with a lot of people and a little amount of crew members. So of course anything could happen, and it's very hard to just turn the ship around and go back to land, and would just cause a whole other bunch of problems. So this is again something that you want to be aware of for those people who you know in your party like to cause a little ruckus or problems. Just try to, as much as you can, talk some sense into them, bring them down before they get into their craziness or whatever they're doing, because you want to enjoy your time on the cruise and not have it completely ruined because of 1 or 2 bad decisions. Number 7 is unauthorized entry into restricted areas. When you are on a cruise, there is going to be so many different doors and places that you can go into sometimes, and usually for the most part they're going to be locked up if it's something that only employees can go to. But there may be a time where the door might have been open, or they might have been doing some type of maintenance, and if you wander into these places, it could cause a huge safety risk. I know it might be tempting, I know there might be some intrinsic thought, let it go and go somewhere else, because there's so many other areas on the cruise that you can explore. Number 8 is abandoning the cruise. When you go on a cruise, there is a procedure for pretty much everything, because they need to make sure they are accounting for all of the different passengers on the ship. And if you decide for whatever reason to abandon the cruise because you just are either tired of it, you don't like it, and you don't inform them, this can cause a huge safety risk because they don't know where you are. If you are somebody who feels like they made the wrong choice, just allow yourself to go through the actual cruise and not go on it again, or bare minimum, let somebody know that you are not going to be rejoining the cruise. You are getting off the ship so that they can notify whoever they need to notify to make sure that you don't get completely banned. Number 9 is illegal substance abuse or possession. Every cruise has their own rules as to what you can bring aboard with you as far as alcohol or things like that. But if you are somebody who gets caught trying to bring on alcohol or any illegal drugs or anything like that, this will ultimately ban you from the cruise. They have a huge no tolerance policy across the board, no matter which cruise you're pretty much looking at, because from one aspect, this is their business. They make a lot of sales off of the drinks that they offer you on their cruise, and on top of that, they also want to make sure that they are keeping things in control as far as what is being consumed on the ship. Number 10 is unapproved social media posts. This is more of looking at it from a standpoint of you recording things that you know you're not supposed to. For instance, on the Disney Cruise Line, any of their shows that they are offering in the theater, you cannot record those because they don't ultimately want you to ruin it for other potential passengers when they are going on the cruise. This also can apply to other areas on the ship. If you are showing different areas that maybe a door that was open for employees only, if you are showing that to other people, this can pose a huge safety risk because now you're kind of inviting other potential people who have intrinsic thoughts to go there, and it could cause a major problem. Number 11 is engaging in unauthorized gambling. All the cruise lines are pretty much going to have a hard stance on this because at the end of the day, most cruises besides Disney cruises have some form of gambling, but even then with Disney cruises they do too as well with bingo. But a lot of the other cruises will have their own casino, whether it's Royal Caribbean or Carnival Cruise Line, they're going to have a designated area for you to gamble. And of course, this is a conflict of interest if you are running illegal gambling and essentially taking away from money that they would be able to have if somebody were to go to that actual casino. Another aspect of this is that it again poses a safety risk because what causes a lot of people to be upset when they are losing money, and especially when it comes to an unofficial game, there could be someone who is cheating, or maybe someone feels like they're being cheated when in actuality they're just getting beat. Either way, this is going to cause a lot of people to potentially start a ruckus and get into a fight because this is again not something that is official. Number 12 is sneaking extra guests into your cabin. This is something that is kind of not really easy to do nowadays because there's a lot of different protocols and things for this, but this could be something that could be an issue if you are letting them know that you are trying to bring one or too many guests with you at the actual port. You shouldn't be able to get onto the ship without having too many people in the cabin, but at the end of the day, it is something that you want to be aware of if you are trying to maybe sneak somebody by while getting on the cruise. They will simply not allow that to happen if they're not accounting for each and every person, and there is a certain amount of people that can be in each cabin because it is going to pose a safety risk. If there ever was an emergency, they need to make sure how many people are in that actual cabin, who they need to account for, because there's going to be a certain amount of vests that are going to be in that room. Number 13 is tampering with environmental controls on the actual a cruise. This is not going to apply towards your stateroom if you are trying to change the temperature in there, because you have every right to do that there. This is more applying to the different areas that are the common areas. If you are, say, messing around with a thermostat, or maybe touching some of the different things that are water features that they may have for an emergency, this is something that you want to stray away from. Number 14 is improper use of pool facilities. When it comes to this, we're talking about you diving or just not maybe listening to the lifeguards when they're trying to tell you something because they're trying to keep you safe. I know there's a lot of times that we want to have fun, we want to just let loose and do whatever we want to do, or maybe do other adult things that we shouldn't be doing in public.
Oh, you nasty.
Just saying, this is stuff that you want to avoid because it not only has a safety hazard, but it is also going to disrupt the public as well. Number 15 is disregarding quarantine protocols. As a species, in the last couple of years, we have all gone through this in our own lives. So what we're talking about here is sometimes there are going to be times where you may have gotten some kind of sickness that could be contagious, and they need you to quarantine because it could spread to other passengers on the cruise. So while you may feel like you're not that sick and you're not really contagious for whatever reasons you think so, they have an obligation to make sure that other passengers are safe, and it could be a health risk to a lot of other people, especially the older community, if you have something that could be spread to them. If you find yourself in this situation, you have to just allow yourself to go through that process, and hopefully the next trip you won't run into that issue. With that being said, I hope you found value in today's video. If you did, please make sure to hit that likes button, hit that subscribe button if you're new here, and I will see you in the next video.